San.
Hello and welcome to What If from Koala. I'm Liam.
And I'm Myrae. As usual, we'll be diving into another bizarre but fascinating hypothetical from the XKCD's What If series.
Today's question comes from Jason. Would a nuclear submarine work as a spaceship?
All right. The original answer was written by Randall Munroe, former NASA roboticist, creator of SKCD, What If, How To. Brilliant stuff.
Definitely. And Henry Reich from Minute Physics and Minute Earth fame was involved too.
So, yeah, we're in for a truly wild yet scientifically grounded ride today.
Grounded, even if the sub isn't. Okay, buckle up, because today we're launching into one of the most wonderfully absurd thought experiments I think I've ever come across. Just picture this for a second. A multi-thousand-ton nuclear submarine, this, immense steel behemoth built for the crushing depths.
Yeah.
Somehow silently floating adrift.
Yeah.
In the absolute stillness and blackness of Earth orbit.
It's a profoundly surreal image, isn't it? You've got this machine purpose-built to resist just unbelievable external pressure, miles of ocean pushing inwards. Side 3.
Right.
And now it's facing the total opposite, the near-perfect vacuum of space with only its own internal air, just one atmosphere pushing out.
My gut reaction, and probably yours too, is it would just burst, right? Pulp like a balloon, or, implode, tear itself apart like you see in bad sci-fi movies.
It's absolutely the common assumption. But Randall Munroe's analysis, it reveals the reality is, as he puts it, completely unexpected. He basically says the obvious problem isn't the real problem at all.
Okay, that definitely sets things up. So that intuitive reaction that the vacuum just sucks it apart, that's wrong.
Pretty much, yeah. It turns out the hull is incredibly strong. Way stronger than it needs to be for this scenario.
How strong are we talking?
Well, think about it. A submarine hull, especially a military one, is designed to withstand maybe 50, even 80 atmospheres of pressure pushing in. That's over 1,000 pounds per square inch.
Okay, massive pressure. Exactly. So, for that same structure, containing just one atmosphere, 14.7 psi of air pushing out against a vacuum, it's relatively trivial, as Monroe says.
Wow.
He had these great analogies, like using a bank vault door to keep a draft out.
Okay.
Or using a battleship to hold back a garden hose. It's just immense overkill in terms of outward pressure.
Right. These things use incredible materials like HY80 steel, double hulls sometimes.
Yeah.
Massive safety margins built in.
Precisely.
But what about leaks? It's designed to be watertight inward, but is it airtight outward against a vacuum? Air molecules are tiny.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not optimized for holding air against a vacuum. But think about it this way. If water can't squeeze in under, say, 50 atmospheres of pressure, then air molecules, which are, like you said, much smaller and way less dense, they're not going to just gush out instantly against zero pressure. Any leaks would be probably very slow.
Slow enough.
Munroe estimates slow enough to give the sub days, maybe even weeks, before significant pressure loss really becomes the main issue. So the hull integrity, surprisingly okay, at least for a while.
Okay, so our hypothetical crew, they get a few days, maybe weeks to celebrate their unexpected trip to orbit inside this miraculously intact metal tube. Breathing room, for now.
For now.
But what about air quality? You seal people in a metal can, CO2 builds up fast. That's always the problem, right?
It usually is, yeah. Critical point for any confined space, especially submarines. But nuclear subs, they're built for long deployments, like months underwater.
Right.
So they have really sophisticated CO2 scrubbers. They use chemical absorbents like lithium hydroxide, stuff like that.
And those work as long as
they have power.
Yeah.
Which, a nuclear submarine with its reactor has plenty of. So these scrubbers can operate pretty much indefinitely.
So wait, CO2 buildup is not the problem here. That's surprising.
Surprising. But yeah, as long as the reactor's running and the scrubbers are working, CO2 levels are managed.
Okay. All right. Hull holds, CO2 is handled. I'm sensing a butt coming. There's always a bigger, more unexpected problem lurking in these what-ifs, isn't there? What are we missing?
You've absolutely hit on it. While the CO2 scrubbers might keep running, the other side of the breathable air coin that hits a major snag, oxygen. Specifically producing oxygen.
Right. Where does the oxygen normally come from on a sub?
Well, they generate it using electricity from the reactor. They basically split water molecules electrolysis to get oxygen.
From seawater.
Exactly. It's a brilliant closed-loop system when you're surrounded by an endless supply of H2O in space.
There's no water.
Precisely. No water for the electrolysis process.
Yeah.
The oxygen generator just can't work.
Okay, that's a big one. The ultimate environmental mismatch. No continuous oxygen supply. Do they have, like, backup tanks? Reserves?
Yeah, they do, yeah. They carry reserve oxygen. It might be in high-pressure tanks, or sometimes they use chemical generators, these things called oxygen candles.
How long would that last?
Yeah. Enough for maybe a few days, maybe even a week or two. Depends on the subclass and the reserves. But the key thing is, it's a finite supply. It creates a definite countdown timer. Eventually, the crew faces severe hypoxia.
Yeah. So, okay, not the hull bursting, not CO2 poisoning, but running out of air. A ticking clock measured in days or maybe a couple of weeks. That sounds bad enough, but I still have this feeling even that isn't the real showstopper problem here, is it?
You're absolutely right. Again, the true Achilles heel, the absolutely critical issue that trumps even running out of oxygen. It isn't about the air at all.
What is it then?
It's about heat. Catastrophic runaway overheating.
Heat in space. But isn't space supposed to be incredibly cold? Like absolute zero cold? It's not bad.
That's a super common misconception. Space feels cold if you're, say, an astronaut on a spacewalk without a suit, because you radiate your body heat away very fast into the vacuum. There's no air to hold the heat in.
Right.
But the environment itself, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Pedantically speaking, the few molecules that are way up there in Earth orbit can actually be moving incredibly fast. Their kinetic energy is equivalent to, like, thousands of degrees.
Thousands of degrees hot, but it feels cold.
This sounds like that analogy Randall Munroe used, the sparks from a metal grinder.
Exactly. That's the perfect analogy. Those tiny, super hot sparks don't burn your skin, right? Because even though each spark is thousands of degrees, there's so little mass, so little total heat energy in each one.
Yeah, okay.
Same idea in space. Those few super fast, high temperature molecules are so incredibly sparse that they just don't transfer enough total energy to significantly heat up something big like a submarine. They just bounce off, mostly. It's that. So practical heating and cooling in space isn't really about those sparse hot particles hitting you. It's about how much heat you generate internally.
Perfect.
And how efficiently you can get rid of it.
Exactly right. And without air or water around you, you can't lose heat through conduction or convection, which are usually very effective. Heat loss in space is almost solely by radiation just glowing infrared heat away.
And radiation's slow, inefficient.
Often, yes. Especially for a large object that's generating a lot of internal heat. For most spacecraft, actually, the big engineering challenge isn't staying warm, it's keeping cool, getting rid of the heat from electronics, sunlight, crew.
And a nuclear submarine. Well, it isn't just carrying a few laptops and people generating a bit of body heat, it's carrying a monster heat source.
We got it. A 200 megawatt nuclear reactor, give or take, depending on the class, like an S9G reactor.
200 megawatt, that's like a power plant.
It is a power plant. And nuclear reactors, they aren't perfectly efficient. A huge chunk of that thermal energy isn't converted to useful power.
So how much?
Roughly half of the reactor's total thermal energy output, so around 100 megawatts or maybe even more, is just waste heat.
100 megawatts of waste heat? That's enough to light up a small city or boil a small lake, like Munroe said.
Exactly. It's an absolutely staggering amount of heat constantly being generated.
And normally, how does the sub deal with that when it's, not in space?
Well, on Earth, it's easy. That immense heat gets dumped very efficiently into the vast, cold expanse of the ocean. The ocean acts as a giant, practically infinite heat sink.
Through heat exchangers, right, pumping seawater through.
Yeah, massive heat exchangers constantly pull heat out of the reactor coolant loop and transfer it to the surrounding seawater. Problem solved.
But again, in space.
No water, no convection, no giant heat sink. So that 100 megawatts of waste heat, it has absolutely nowhere to go except slowly radiating away, which is nowhere near fast enough.
What happens then? How fast does it heat up?
There. The calculation in What If is pretty stark. Without that ocean cooling, the submarine would warm up internally by about 0.5 degree Celsius every single minute.
0.5 degree C a minute. Wow. Okay, so after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 5 degrees C hotter.
Yep, and within an hour, that's 30 degrees Celsius hotter. That's a 54 degree Fahrenheit rise.
Whoa.
And it just keeps climbing. Within just a couple of hours, the inside of the submarine becomes an absolute oven. Internal temperatures soaring into the 60, 70, 80 degrees Celsius range. That's like 140 to 180 Fahrenheit.
That's completely unsurvivable. Forget running out of oxygen in a week. The crew would be cooked long, long before that. Hours, maybe?
Probably hours, yeah. And it's not just the crew. Think about the reactor itself.
Right. It's not designed to just sit there and bake either.
Well, not at all. It needs that constant cooling. If it can't shed that heat, you're looking at a catastrophic thermal runaway event.
Yeah.
The fuel rods overheat, the cladding could melt, control systems might fail. Basically, a full-blown meltdown scenario. Yeah. It's what engineers call a loss of heat sink event, and it's incredibly dangerous.
So yeah, unmanageable heat is the real killer app here. Way faster and more dramatic than anything else. Keeping a nuclear submarine in orbit is officially a terrible, terrible idea.
Fundamentally incompatible with the environment, yes.
Okay, so the sub's in oven, the crew's toast, the reactor's heading towards meltdown, and they're still stuck up there. Which brings us to the next logical absurdity. How do you get this doomed multi-thousand-ton metal behemoth back down?
Right. Assuming somehow they wanted to try before everything melted, getting out of orbit presents a whole new, fascinating set of problems. But it also draws this really neat parallel between the two extreme environments.
How so? What's the parallel?
Now.
Like we touched on, both the deep ocean and outer space are incredibly hostile, right? But for fundamentally opposite reasons, as Monroe puts it.
Opposite reasons, okay.
The ocean tries to crush you inwards with immense pressure. Space, on the other hand, tries to expand you outwards with your own internal pressure against the vacuum. And as we just discovered, it tries to cook you because you can't get rid of your heat efficiently.
It's a perfect inversion of dangers.
I like that. A flip-flop of hazards.
Exactly. So, back to getting down, how do you deorbit this colossal tube?
You need to slow down, right? Hit the brakes somehow so gravity pulls you back into the atmosphere.
Precisely. You need to reduce your orbital velocity, which is around 17,000 miles per hour or 7,800 meters per second, up there by just enough so your trajectory dips down into the upper atmosphere. That requires a specific change in velocity, what rocket scientists call delta V.
Okay, delta V. How much do you need? And how does a sub get it? It doesn't have, like, maneuvering thrusters or retro rockets built in.
It's that one.
No, it absolutely doesn't have any conventional rockets designed for space propulsion.
Right.
Its whole system is about moving relatively slowly through water using propellers. So, big problem there.
No conventional rockets. But it does technically have rockets on board, doesn't it? A lot of very powerful rockets. They're just not usually pointed backwards.
Yes. You're jumping ahead to the deliciously ironic technicality, as Monroe calls it. The submarine's primary armament. It's ballistic missiles.
Right. An Ohio-class sub, for example, carries, 24 Trident D5 missiles?
Up to 24, yeah. And these aren't small. They are huge, long-range ballistic missiles. Each one weighs something like 130,000 pounds, multi-stage, solid propellant rockets designed to go halfway around the world.
So Monroe's brilliant and utterly bizarre solution involves using these giant ICBMs as brakes. How would that even work? You can't just fire them normally.
No, you couldn't. The absolutely bonkers concept is this. What if you could somehow take these missiles, flip them around inside their vertical launch tubes so the rocket nozzle faces up and out of the hatch?
Oh, wait, install them backwards?
Yeah. So when you fire them, the thrust goes forward, opposing the submarine's orbital motion. They'd act as makeshift retro rockets.
That is magnificently crazy. Could that possibly provide enough braking force, enough delta V? These subs are massive.
Well, Monroe did the math, or at least estimated it. Each individual Trident missile, fired backward like this, could change the speed of a huge Ohio-class submarine by, get this, approximately 4 meters per second.
4 meters per second, per missile. That still doesn't sound like a lot when you're booking along at nearly 8,000 meters per second. How much delta V did you say we needed to deorbit?
A typical deorbit burn just enough to nudge you into the atmosphere requires a delta V somewhere in the range of 80 to 100 meters per second.
Okay, 80 to 100 meters per second needed. And we have 24 missiles, each giving us about 4 meters per second. 24 times 4. That's 96 meters per second.
96 meters per second. Yeah.
Wait, that actually works. It falls right in the middle of the range needed. Dupe. Isn't that incredible? As Monroe calculated, it's almost perfectly just enough to get it out of orbit. The numbers line up almost spookily well.
That is scientifically plausible based on the numbers and just utterly delightfully insane. That's the ultimate MacGyver moment right there. Using your own nuclear missiles installed backwards to break out of orbit.
It truly is peak what-if absurdity meets physics. But, of course, even if you somehow pulled off this completely ludicrous deorbit maneuver, that's really just the beginning of a whole new, very fiery set of problems on the way down.
Right. Because now you've successfully aimed your giant overheating metal tube back at Earth, and it's about to hit the atmosphere at hypersonic velocities. We're talking many, many times the speed of sound.
And submarines, well, they aren't exactly built for atmospheric reentry, are they?
Not even remotely close.
Yeah.
Think about spacecraft that are designed for reentry.
Yeah.
The space shuttle, Soyuz capsules, Dragon, they have incredibly sophisticated heat shielding.
Yeah, those tiles on the shuttle or the ablative shields that burn away on capsules.
Exactly. Those are designed to dissipate the immense heat generated by air friction at those speeds. Temperatures can reach thousands of degrees Celsius, easily hot enough to melt steel.
And the submarine has none of that, just a steel hull.
None of that is right. It's not designed with any heat-dissipating materials like that. Plus, its shape. That sleek, cylindrical steel form is perfect for cutting through water. Hydrodynamics.
But for flying through air at Mach 25?
Utterly unsuited.
Well.
It would be completely aerodynamically unstable.
Yeah.
As soon as it hit the thicker parts of the atmosphere, it would inevitably start to tumble uncontrollably.
Like throwing a metal pipe end over end into the wind.
Exactly like that. So you've got these immense aerodynamic forces ripping at it, intense heating melting the hull, and it's tumbling wildly. The result, it would twist, distort, buckle, and eventually break up violently in the upper atmosphere.
Leading to bits of nuclear submarine raining down. As Monroe put it, very expensive, very hot, and potentially very radioactive fireworks display. Did that pretty well. Any debris that didn't vaporize would plow into the ground or ocean at several hundred knots. The chances of any significant portion, let alone the whole thing, surviving re-entry are effectively zero. A fiery, catastrophic end.
Okay. Game over for the sub.
Yeah.
But here's where Randall Munroe takes it one step further into the truly bizarre. Even amidst all this fiery chaos, this catastrophic disintegration, he points out there's this microscopic, almost comedic sliver of a chance for human survival.
Oh yeah, the odds are laughably astronomical. But theoretically, maybe. He calls it a tiny, tiny, tiny chance that a person could, against all odds, survive this whole insane ordeal.
How? How on earth could anyone survive that?
Okay, get ready for the absurdity. First, you'd somehow have to tuck yourself into the right crevice inside the sub as it's breaking apart. Find some incredibly reinforced, structurally sound pocket, maybe, he suggests, deep inside the reactor compartment shielding, or maybe even a torpedo tube that somehow withstands the initial G-forces and tearing stresses. Step 1. Find a magic, indestructible hiding spot during hypersonic disintegration.
Okay.
You'd need to be strapped into an acceleration couch, like the form-fitting seats astronauts use for launch and re-entry.
Right, to spread out the massive G-forces, which submarines definitely don't have as standard equipment.
Definitely not. So you'd need one of those somehow installed in your magic crevice to avoid being turned into jelly by the rapid deceleration.
Okay, magic crevice, custom acceleration couch. Keep going.
Yeah.
Survive the initial violent breakup and deceleration, which Monroe basically says is lottery win levels of luck.
Yeah.
You're still inside a chunk of burning, falling wreckage at this point.
Just sounds pretty bad.
So the final act, you then need to somehow jump out of the wreckage with a parachute, another piece of non-standard submarine equipment, before your particular chunk smashes into the earth.
You have to bail out of the falling, burning submarine fragment. That's just beyond absurd. It's like something out of a cartoon. It highlights, sheer desperate ingenuity, or perhaps utter insanity.
Sad.
It really does. Which perfectly leads us to the ultimate, critical, final piece of advice from Randall Munroe, delivered with that classic, deadpan, what-if humor.
Who is it? If you ever try this, remember to disable the detonators on the missiles.
Oh my God, of course. Because after surviving the overheating, the near suffocation, the backward missile launch deorbit, the atmospheric disintegration, the G-forces from hell, finding a magic couch in a magic crevice, and then parachuting out of falling wreckage, the last thing you'd want is to accidentally trigger the multi-megaton nuclear warheads in the debris when it hits the ground, adding a mushroom cloud to your list of problems for the day.
Exactly. It's just the perfect, darkly humorous, and strangely practical footnote to such an outrageously impossible scenario. It perfectly sums up that unique blend Monroe does so well. Rigorous physics, clever engineering, sheer human ingenuity, and maybe just a touch of absurdity.
And that, wow, that was a truly wild deep dive into why a nuclear submarine should probably, definitely, absolutely stick to the ocean depths. We found out its super strong hull, surprisingly okay, not the first problem.
Nope.
But yeah, running out of oxygen eventually, that's bad. But the real killer, the showstopper, that extreme, uncontrollable overheating from the massive reactor, hours, not days.
Absolutely critical. And then the whole bonkers but numerically plausible idea of using ballistic missiles as makeshift brakes, followed by the inevitable fiery disintegration.
Yeah, what really stood out to me was just how counterintuitive some of it was.
Yeah.
Like the heat in space being the problem, not the cold.
Yeah.
And just the sheer scale of that reactor's waste heat when its cooling system is gone.
And the missile math working out so perfectly. That was just uncanny.
This whole deep dive, it really shows understanding those basic principles, heat transfer, pressure, the specific demands of different hostile environments can lead to completely unexpected answers, even when the question sounds completely nuts to begin with. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how we design things for specific extreme conditions and how even the toughest machines can fail spectacularly when you put them somewhere they were never, ever meant to be.
Yeah, context is everything, isn't it? And sometimes true knowledge, or at least really interesting insights, come from pushing those boundaries, questioning assumptions, poking at the details, no matter how wild the premise seems at first.
So what stood out to you listening to this? Did you guess heat would be the big one, or were you banking on the hull bursting? What other completely crazy what-if scenarios are bouncing around in your head now that you'd love us to maybe tackle sometime? Let us know.
You've been listening to What If from Koala. If you enjoyed this slightly terrifying journey into the absurdly possible, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration. Thanks for joining us.
It's new. Until next time, keep asking those big, strange, maybe slightly dangerous questions. Because, well, sometimes that's where the most interesting answers are hiding.